What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers, and welcome to the main event deep dive for Caitlin Vieira going against Miesha Tate. Maybe not the best fight in the world, but I think the card UFC Vegas 43 is pretty good. And I'm here as always with Uncle Weezy. Uncle Weezy, what is up? Are you looking forward to this main event?
Yeah, not as much as the last couple, obviously, but there's some angles for this one. Miesha Tate kind of coming off of a long layoff, off of a pregnancy here, and looking really impressive against a 44-year-old Marion Renault. But still, it was good to see her make that return after being away for so long and look good doing it. And then we got Caitlin Vieira, who's got a really nice resume in her own right here. And I think what makes this fight most interesting is the fact that it's a 5-round fight. It adds a couple of different angles here that we have to look at, most notably the conditioning. So I can't wait to get into the stats with you here and kind of figure out which way we're leaning.
Yep, for sure. Cannot wait. Before we get started, everybody in the chat, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, also subscribe to the channel. We'll talk through it throughout the duration of the video with the chat. We'll see if we can find any spots on this fight here. So let's hit up the chat before we get started. Raw Torque, let's get it, fellas. Defense by the Numbers. Shout out to Raw Torque. First one in the chat. Hank Hill saying thumbs up if you'll be watching the main event with a bottle of lotion next to you. And that's pretty weird, but shout out to Hank Hill. Tita's talking about the over 1.5 Giannis fight minus 160. I do like that a lot. Talk about lotion. Is young boy Weezy today as well? Yes, sir. Weezy is here. We have Daz Files, Arthur as well, and then Philip all hanging out in the chat. If you all can please smash that like button, that'd be much, much appreciated. But I say we start getting into this main event, and we'll start at the tail of the tape. So we have Caitlin Vieira. She is 30 years old, 5'8" with a 68-inch reach. Going against Miesha Tate, she is 35 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. Caitlin Vieira is going to be 5 years younger. She's going to have a 2-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage as well. We'll take a look at their last couple fights. Caitlin Vieira, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. A submission win over Sarah McMahon, a decision win over Kat Zingano, a knockout loss to Irene Aldana, a decision win against Ciara Eubanks, and then a decision loss to Yana Kanutakaya. As far as Miesha Tate, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights as well. A decision win over Jessica Ai, a submission win over Holly Holm, a submission loss to Amanda Nunes, a decision loss to Raquel Pennington, and a knockout win as of late against Marion Renault. So, Uncle Weezy, interesting fight. Let's talk about the experience stats here.
Yeah, for sure. I'm giving the tail of the tape to Vieira here, being 5 years younger, 2 inches taller, and having that 2-inch reach advantage. Those are all nice little advantages to have. And then we got to go with Tate on the experience, obviously. She's got twice as many pro fights, 26 pro fights comparison to 13 for Vieira. Twice as much time in the pro cage for Miesha Tate, about 140 more minutes of pro experience, and about 6 more years in the game. But Miesha Tate coming off of a 4.5-year layoff with her last fight here with Marion Renault, which just happened a few months ago. Prior to that, it was about a 4.5-year break between Renault fight and the Pennington fight for Tate. While, Caitlin Vieira, 13 professional fights in a 7-year career, so she hasn't been that active either, about 2 pro fights a year. We got 10 UFC level fights for Tate, 7 for Vieira. So Vieira has been fighting more than half of her career at the UFC level, 5-2 record, about 40 more minutes in the UFC cage for Miesha Tate here, and an average fight time for both of them sitting right around 13 minutes. So, definitely an experience advantage here for Tate. Tate's going to have a little bit of a strength of schedule advantage as well, but we'll talk about that later. And then when we talk about the finish stats, we do see that, Caitlin Vieira, 54% of her pro wins are by finish, but only 1 of her 5 UFC wins is by finish. And then Tate has got a 58% finish rate overall as a pro, but only has finished 2 of her 6 UFC wins. And then if we look at the losses here, it's been Caitlin Vieira who's been knocked out in 1 of her 2 pro losses, and Miesha Tate's got 7 pro losses, 4 of them in the UFC. And of those 7 losses, 5 of them have come inside the distance, 3 by submission, 2 by knockout, and 3 of her 4 UFC losses have come inside the distance, 2 by submission, 1 by knockout. So yeah, definitely an experience advantage here for Tate. And both of these ladies have been finished, and both of them have gotten finishes, but they're not prominent finishers in their own right in the UFC. 11 combined wins for Vieira and Tate, and only 3 of those 11 combined wins have come inside the distance here. So that's one of the things that's kind of leading me to believe that this fight will go over. But what's making me stay away from betting it, Brady, is the fact that of the combined 6 UFC losses for these ladies, 4 of them have come inside the distance. That's 2/3, and this is a 5-round fight. So, yeah, that's going to be tricky. The time props are really tricky for me in this fight.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you take a look at, some of the people that have finished Miesha Tate, though. Amanda Nunes, I think we can forgive her for that. She did get armbarred by Ronda Rousey, and then she lost against Kat Zingano by knockout as well. And then Ronda Rousey submitted her as well back in 2012. So, yeah, those are some of her losses back in the day. And then as far as Caitlin Vieira, you mentioned the Irene Aldana knockout, which was kind of flukish, but Aldana hit her hard there and knocked her out, which kind of surprised a lot of people, including me. So yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. I think if this fight does finish, I don't know if Vieira is going to knock out Miesha Tate. I'd be really shocked if she did. I don't know if Vieira is going to submit Miesha Tate. I'd be pretty surprised if she did. I think if there's a finish in this fight, it might be like a Tate finish late if Vieira does slow down. I guess that's my only concern, but I'm kind of with you. I think this fight is probably going to go over. Something interesting about Miesha Tate, I mean, we talk about how much experience she has, how long she's been fighting, but it's just crazy to think about that Miesha Tate is somebody that she took a long layoff. I mean, her last fight prior to the Renault fight, it was back in 4 years and 11 months ago against Raquel Pennington. She takes nearly just almost a 5-year layoff, comes back against Mary Renault, and she looks good. But I don't know how much we can really, take away from that matchup because Mary Renault, she's 44 years old. She was retired. That was her retirement fight. And she also has a 50% takedown defense. So yes, she looked good, but I really don't know where Miesha Tate is at because prior to that against Raquel Pennington, she didn't look great. But again, that was 5 years ago, and before that, she lost to Amanda Nunes, which was 5 years and 4 months ago, and before that, she beat Holly Holm by submission late in the fight, and that was 5.5 years ago. So yeah, Miesha Tate has not been active at all. Vieira has been the more active fighter, but yeah, like you said, Miesha Tate's going to have a lot more experience here. So. Yeah, it's really interesting. We'll start with the striking, Wheezy. So in terms of the striking, for me at least, I think I do give the advantage here to Vieira. I'm not in love with her striking, but I do think she's long, she's rangy, she's gonna have a reach advantage. Her striking's okay. I mean, and go back to the Eubanks fight, I was pretty impressed in terms of her striking. Was able to outstrike Eubanks for 3 rounds for the majority of that fight. So I do favor Vieira in the striking, and we'll let you talk about the striking stats a little bit, Wheezy.
For sure. Okay, so Vieira here is eating a lot more shots than she lands, which is kind of alarming here. She lands 2.66 per minute and absorbs 3.84 for a minus 1.18 significant strike differential here. That's a lot, and that's really a lot considering that she's won 5 of her 7 UFC wins or fights. So winning 5 out of 7, you'd think you'd be landing more strikes than you're absorbing, but it's not the case with Ketlin. Very low striking accuracy here at 36.63%. The striking defense is at 53%. That's okay, but it's right there with Tate. And she's been knocked down once in 342 significant strikes absorbed, and she's never knocked anybody down in 237 significant strikes landed. So there's not much there on the Vieira side to say that, on paper, she's winning striking exchanges or winning minutes on the feet here. And then we look over at Tate, and it's not much better, but it is better. 2.46 landed a minute, just a little bit less than Vieira, but she's only absorbing 2.66. So she's a little bit better defensively, at least. She's just getting out-volumed by her opponents by a little bit, while Ketlin Vieira is getting out-volumed by her opponents by about 1 significant strike attempt per minute. Miesha Tate much more accurate at 45% striking accuracy in comparison to Ketlin Vieira, at least. And then a 0.29% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed. She's landed 1 knockdown in 339 significant strikes, and she's been knocked down once in 366 significant strikes absorbed. So I got to give Miesha Tate a little bit of a striking advantage here. The thing is that Vieira will have the 2-inch reach advantage. She will be taller. But what I saw from Tate, in particular in the Renault fight, was that her striking did look a lot better. She was keeping Renault on the end of her punches. She was throwing in combination. And even she was telling, the guys that were announcing the fight in the pre-fight interviews that, that she had made significant, strides in her striking during her 5 years off. So, and it did show. She looked good there. Both of these ladies are pretty good at keeping people on the end of their punches. I'd be interested to know who you think has the striking advantage here, but on paper, at least, I think it's Miesha Tate, and I did see some improvements between the Pennington fight and the Renault fight for Tate in terms of her striking, her footwork, and just the overall way that she looked in terms of her striking.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. I think she did make massive strides in her striking. The problem with Vieira, though, and why her numbers look so bad, it's just she gets on top of these fighters, like in the Yana fight, right? Like she lands 7 significant strikes, Wheezy, 7 significant strikes in a 15-minute fight. She got 8 minutes and 38 seconds of control time. She only landed 35 total strikes, so she's not going for much ground and pound there. In Yana, the fighter that was on bottom for the majority of the fight, she actually outlanded her 47-7 in terms of the significant strikes, and a lot of that was on bottom, and she landed a total of 215 total strikes. So yeah, no wonder the judges gave Yana the decision, because Vieira kind of just laid on her for the majority of that fight. And then in her UFC debut as well, she gets outlanded 44-13 in significant strikes in a fight that she won, but she gets 4 takedowns, and she also controls 8 minutes and 24 seconds of that fight. I kind of like Vieira striking, but yeah, when she does get on top, she just doesn't do any ground and pound. So yeah, her numbers look very, very bad. But I think the most interesting aspect of this fight for me, Weezy, is going to be the ground game. Because both fighters are really good grapplers. It's just if one fighter is going to go and get takedowns here, who do you think it's going to be?
Yeah, that's a very good question. If I had to guess, I would say it would be Vieira getting the takedowns, and here's why, Brady. Let's look at the aggregate of their grappling stats here, and we're going to start with Vieira. This is what I call efficiency. All right, Ketlen Vieira is getting almost half of her takedown attempts successfully. Right, 48.15% takedown percentage. She averages more takedowns per 15 minutes than Miesha Tate. She gets more control time percentage than Miesha Tate, and she's got better takedown defense than Miesha Tate. And the takedown defense is not just a little bit better, it's a lot better, Brady. She's successfully defended 13 of 14 takedown attempts in 7 fights, has Ketlen Vieira, for a 92.86% takedown defense. She's being taken down 0.17 times per 15 minutes, only 1 time in 7 fights has Ketlen Vieira been taken down, and the control time that she's yielded is less than 10%, which is less than 9 minutes of control time out of her 89 minutes of cage time. So very good job here, and a lot of her fights wind up on the cage. So, that one takedown, I would be surprised if that takedown resulted in a lot of control time on the ground. I would say that a good percentage of that control time that Vieira is yielding is on the cage, because she likes to fight there. And then we look at Miesha Tate, and in 10 fights, she's attempted 50 takedowns. So 5 takedown attempts per fight, while for Vieira, it's a little bit less than 4. So they're both pretty active with the wrestling here. But it's the efficiency with which Tate is getting the takedowns that's a little bit troubling at only 26%. But she's getting 1.42 takedowns per 15 minutes, and she's active on the ground with submission attempts, attempting more than 1 per 15 minutes. And she's out-controlling her opponents 31.25% to 26.53%. But see, that's the big difference here, Brady, is that, Tate's out-controlling her opponents by 5%. Ketlen Vieira is out-controlling her opponents by almost 35%. So there's a big difference in not only how accurate Vieira is on the takedowns, but how good defensively Vieira is on the grappling. That's the biggest, most alarming difference, is a 93% takedown defense for Vieira and a 55% takedown defense for Tate. When people are going for takedowns on Tate, they're getting them. Can you do me a favor, Brady, and go to the advanced stats?
Yes, sir.
And we're going to look at Miesha Tate's takedown defense fight by fight. She's the second fighter down there. And if you go to the defensive side, for the grappling stats there, you'll see that she's been taken down 17 out of 38 times, right? Scroll more to the right because that's the offensive side. Yeah. There you go. So you see that 17 of 38, but there's one fight here in the middle. It's row number 70. That's the Rin Nakai fight. Rin Nakai was 3 of 19 on her takedown attempts against Miesha Tate. Much smaller Rin Nakai, okay? So she's not a very good wrestler, but she still took down Miesha Tate 3 times. Throw that fight out, Brady, and you're going to see a woman who has been taken down 14 times out of 19 attempts. Wow. You throw out the Rin Nakai fight, and Miesha Tate's takedown defense is 25%, you guys. That's alarming. That's very alarming because we know what Ketlen Vieira is going to do here. She's comfortable striking at range, but if we go back to the matchup template, Brady, we're going to see she's controlling her opponents 44% of the fights and yielding almost 10% control time. So Ketlen Vieira, whenever you see somebody's control time totals over 50%, it's usually pretty clear, unless like 80% of that control time is against them, that they would prefer to be grappling. That's Ketlen Vieira to a T. And I have a big-time problem with Miesha Tate's inability to be able to stay off her back here, or maybe have Ketlen Vieira on hers. Ketlen Vieira is huge, man. She's a big woman, really big for the weight class. So she's probably going to drive a wrestling-heavy game plan. However, this is a 5-round fight, and we've seen her gas in the past. So the conditioning is going to be a big part of this fight, Brady.
And that's the problem. Like, you brought up so many good points there, and it's a huge path to victory for Vieira. What'd you say the percentage of takedown defense would have been if you threw that one fight out?
So it's her opponents were good 14 of 19 times. 19. So like if it's 15 of 20, that's exactly 25%. So I think maybe it's a little over 25%, maybe 26, 27%, just doing the math in my head. 14 are, actually it would be 5 divided by 19, whatever that is. That's the takedown defense. So it's just not very good. This is a problem. It's a real problem because Rin Nakai, I don't know if you remember her, but she's not a natural bantamweight. She's very small, and she tried to take down Miesha Tate 19 times. And I think, like, even if you look at it that way, here's a much smaller woman who thinks that her best path to victory is trying to take this woman down. Well, what do you think Ketlen Vieira is going to do? Look at her. She's huge, man.
Yep, for sure. Kim said 26.3% if you throw that fight out. So, that's the problem. Like, I really want to pull the trigger on Ketlen Vieira, but like you mentioned, this is 5 rounds, and we saw her slow down in the Eubanks fight. I had a bet on Ketlen Vieira in that fight, and I thought, hey, she's going to, be successful, throughout the fight. I thought Eubanks might come on strong early, but no, it was the other way around. It looked like Eubanks was coming on strong late, and Vieira was slowing down. Eubanks is typically a fighter that slows down in her own right. And then in the Yana fight, like, she slowed down very bad. Yana reverses her at the end of the third round there, and ultimately loses her the fight there. So I guess what my problem is what does this fight look like in the 4th or 5th round? Is she still going to be fresh in that 4th or 5th round? Like, I don't know if she finishes Miesha Tate. I really don't. So yeah, I can see her winning the majority of these first couple of rounds. It's just round 4 and rounds 5. That's where I do get some serious concern. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat, and then we'll talk about this strength of schedule here. We have Jack Attack in the chat. Salute, Brady Weezy. What is up, Jack Attack? Johnny K. Picks. Wouldn't be shocked if they both played it safe for the first round or two to save their cardios. We have Dad's Files saying, good hit the like on arrival. Alex Ramirez. Brady Weezy. What is up, Alex? Cage My IQ saying, Vieira gets the takedowns, but her problem is she doesn't do any work on the ground. That is true. So she needs to be active when she does get them. Yeah, she needs to be more active. She doesn't do anything on the mat, it looks like. Ralthorpe saying, yeah, they could save their cardio because no one's there to boo them. That is true as well. Do you feel like Miesha can do enough work on the feet to make up for the ground game difference? Weezy, you think she can?
I think she can, yeah. And I think she needs to keep it there for a good part of the fight because, Ketlen Vieira throwing 7.26 significant strike attempts per minute, but her opponents are throwing 8.27. So even though it appears that Vieira's throwing more volume than Tate is, Tate has a higher percentage of her fights taking place in control time positions. So it would make sense that she's got a little bit less volume, but Tate gets out volumed less by her opponents than Vieira does. So I could see Tate, winning some of these exchanges on the feet, making up that 2-inch reach disadvantage that she has, using that better striking that she showed in the Renault fight. But, one of the other people brought up a good point there, saying, we could see this fight start slow because, I think both these ladies realize that 5 rounds, is a different fight for both of them, especially, with the type of pace that they both like to push. It's not good for 5-round fights, especially when you're not finishers. And these ladies are not finishers. Ketlen Vieira finished 1 of 5 of UFC wins. Miesha Tate 2 of her 6. And even though Tate's been finishing 3 of her 4 losses, you brought it up. It was Amanda Nunes and Ronda Rousey twice. So, that's hard. So these are the kind of losses that you would expect to happen inside the distance. So, yeah, man, I think she could win minutes on the feet here. I think that's her best chance to win minutes here.
Yep, and somebody brought up in the chat, like Cage is saying here. So she also lost the Kanitskaya fight, even with the control time, since she did no work on the ground. Like I could see a scenario where maybe Vieira gets a takedown and she does nothing with it, and we know the judges they don't score control time as we saw in the Yana fight. Maybe Tate's active offer back and Tate can steal around that way, so that's kind of concerning as well. Moy saying Wheezy doing linear regression on Vieira's output during a 15-minute fight. The answer is there. Miesha Tate 5-round finish is a lock. This is the first time Vieira is going to be in a 5-round fight, Wheezy.
Yeah, the first time, and when if he's telling me to do linear regression, he's already done it. He's probably seeing that there's a significant amount of decrease in the output from Vieira as the fight goes on, and if that's the case, that's when you start looking for that fighter to get finished late in the fight. And if he's saying round 5 for Tate, we can probably expect Vieira to wilt as the fight goes on. And that's why the weigh-in for this fight is going to be so important. We got to see, how good these ladies look on the scale, how rough that weight cut was for them, because I really do believe that this is going to be a fight where whoever has the best conditioning and is able to push the hardest pace for 5 rounds here is going to come out on top.
Yep, for sure. Mr. Savage saying, I would assume Tate has been training all the years, so maybe her ground game is totally different. Yeah, she looked much improved in her last fight after that long layoff. Braden saying Miesha Tate will have the home crowd in her ear of the judges. He's also saying if Herb Dean is reffing, I'm fading. I fade most fights Herb Dean is reffing. My goodness. But yeah, so the strength of schedule stats, Wheezy, is there anything at all? I mean, like on paper, like Amanda Nunes, Pennington, Holly Holm, is there anything that's really sticking out to you in terms of the strength of schedule?
It's not massive, but it's there. It's noticeable. The 1.44 overall ratio for Tate in comparison to the 1.09 for Vieira is a significant advantage. The 9.5 total fights for 6.86 for Vieira is a nice little advantage. The average opponent of a Miesha Tate fighter is 5.6 and 3.9. Average opponent for Ketlen Vieira, 3.57 wins, 3.29 losses. So yeah, Tate on the aggregate is fighting the tougher fighters. She's beating the tougher fighters as the ratio is almost identical, but she's fighting more experienced competition, and beating more experienced competition is Miesha Tate. The average opponent that Tate beats, 4.67 wins, 4.5 losses. The average opponent that Vieira beats, 3.4 wins, 3.2 losses. And then you look at who they're losing to, and Tate's losing to the more experienced, much better win-loss ratio competition, as the average record of the woman that beats Vieira, 4 wins, 3.5 losses, while for Tate, it's 7 wins and 3 losses. So, yeah, definitely Tate has got a strength of a schedule advantage here.
Yep, for sure. I do want to get into some odds here. Everybody in the chat, let me know what you're liking in this fight, if anything. I've not pulled the trigger on anything yet. I was tempted early on Vieira at plus money, but we now see that line is completely flipped. We see that Vieira opened up as a minus 160 favorite. She went all the way up to plus 117. She was sitting around like plus 100. like minus 105 for a while, but now she's sitting at minus 121. So money as of late is coming back in on Vieira, and then Miesha Tate opened up plus 140. She went all the way down to like a minus 137, minus 135, and she was sitting around the minus 120 for a while, and then now she's back up at plus 101. Weezy, what do you take of this line, and what do you make of the line movement?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously some money coming in here on Vieira, but this line's been sitting out here since October 30th. It opened up with Tate plus 140, and then immediately got bet down to a range where she was about minus 110. And then ever since then, it's been bouncing around between minus 110 and minus 120 for Tate here. So, that feels about right. She's the older fighter. She's the smaller fighter. She's the less she's less efficient in the grappling exchanges here. And you got to believe that a good percentage of this fight is going to be taking place in the grappling realm. The question is, if Vieira can get it there and get it there early and often, will she be able to do anything, or is she going to be getting pulled off of her for inactivity, which is kind of like almost what was happening in the Yana fight, Vieira is going to need to commit to being more active when she is on top here. I got a real, if this was a 3-round fight, Brady, I think that Ketlin might be minus 150, minus 160 here.
I agree. I would have bet her already if this was a 3-round fight, but those extra 2 rounds do scare the crap out of me, right?
It's just, that's what's scaring me here, because I'm very confident that Ketlin can win minutes early in this fight, at least for the first 12 and a half to maybe even the first 17 and a half minutes. But then what happens after that? You look at her against Sijara Eubanks. Look at how she looks on the stool between the second and third round. I'm talking about Vieira here. She looked like she wanted to die out there. Yeah. And then not only that, the Kunitskaya fight, she got that takedown in the third round and accrued a lot of top control time. But you could tell she was dying out there. You could tell that she was fighting through exhaustion. And this is in the third round against smaller opponents. I mean, it's in particular, Sijara Eubanks, looked really small comparison to Ketlin Vieira. And Vieira was pretty much done after 2 rounds. So we are going to have, if you're betting on Vieira, you're basically betting that she's either going to finish Miesha Tate inside of 3 rounds, or that conditioning is going to look way better than it ever has before. And if that's your bet and you're doing that before you see this woman on the scale, I think you're taking a big chance here. If I'm betting Vieira, I'm waiting to see her on the scale. And if she looks good on the scale, then I'm taking the plunge, and I'm still then not overcommitting, maybe 1 unit. But, if I kind of feel like the value's on Tate here just a little bit, and we're going to assume that Vieira hasn't made conditioning improvements, and we're going to assume that Tate's going to come in shape and that her striking is going to look as good as it did in the Renault fight. But we're making a lot of assumptions, and I hate making assumptions this early in the week when I'm trying to make a bet.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's tough. I think it's a really close fight. I think it'd be a lot easier for me, at least if this was 3 rounds. But yeah, the 5-round aspect of things does make it hard. Raw saying, I guess it's a good live betting scenario. I agree. Do you agree that if you do like Tate, maybe it's better live after like the first round or second round, right?
Yeah, because if you see that same look on Ketlin Vieira's face that you saw between the second and third rounds when she was on the stool in the Eubanks fight, then you can load up a little bit on Tate, because there's still 15 minutes left in the fight at that point. And if Tate doesn't look like she's been destroyed, you got to assume that she should have the better conditioning here. She's been the one fighting 5 rounds in the past, and she's not over the hill yet. She's still only 35, so Ketlin's 30, and she's just not shown good enough conditioning here. But Moai Audio said there in the chat, dude, Miesha round 5 plus 3,500, dude.
Yeah.
Whoo, boy, that's worth a sprinkle, dude. You put a quarter unit on that, that's like 3, it's like 8.75 unit win, if you hit on that. That's a party at Wheezy's, for a quarter unit, man. I'm doing that right now. You talk to the people for a minute.
No, I agree with that. There's a way I'm looking at playing this fight. that does involve a Misha Tate round 5 prop, and I'll kind of talk about it. And I think it's pretty interesting. But let's look at some more of these comments. If Vieira gets back to plus money, I might take a stab. Other than that, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I'm gonna pass, Johnny. Yeah, plus money. It was tempting, but I didn't pull the trigger. Now it's at minus 120. I just don't see myself getting there. If it was 3 rounds, absolutely, but the 5 rounds scares the crap out of me. Dev saying, "Let's go, Brady, Uncle Weezy. Tate is a lock." Dev, nothing's a lock. Come on, especially Tate. But shout out to Dev. Did Tate have COVID, and has she been training at all? Has she had COVID?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I didn't hear that. But was this fight pushed back?
I can take a look.
I'm on Ketlin Vieira's page. Yeah, you know what? This fight was supposed to take place on November 16th.
Tate test positive for COVID. Yeah, she did.
Uh-oh. Well, you know what, dude? She might have. This looks like if you're only out a month, that you probably tested positive, but maybe didn't have symptoms. But that's another angle you need to look at here, because this is a 5-round fight, and that's what's pissing. I wish this was a 3-round fight, Brady. Why can't like Chiesa Brady be a 5-round fight? Because if this were a 3-round fight, I'd be loading up on Ketlin Vieira here at plus money for sure.
100%. Dad saying a fight to start round 2 is a lock. Probably is, but it's like probably minus 1,000. Moyes talking about that Misha round 5 plus 30 to 500. Crazy.
Thank you, Moyes. I'm already on it for a quarter unit. Party at Wheezy's.
That's actually a line. That's actually a line for real.
I just bet it on Bet Online, dude. 35 to 1. I can't not do that, man. I mean, like, this is Ketlin Vieira's conditioning is not good, man. Not good. And her path to victory is pushing a pace that what we've already seen on tape from her in the past. She's not pushing that pace for 25 minutes. There's no way.
Moy saying Greek party, I'll pass. Oh no.
Oh, come on, man.
Oh
God. I deserve better than that.
I agree. Moose saying Tate might implement heavy wrestling. Like the problem with that is how good Vieira's takedown defense is, right?
Her implant heavy wrestling is what
might implement her implant. I'm confused. What's
Moose?
Oh, he's talking about her implants.
Yeah, I think.
I thought he meant implement.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he said implement and implant in the same sentence, which is really poor sentence and construction. Oh God.
Oh, Tate has a 50% takedown defense. Yep. Eventually she will get taken down. I agree. That's why this fight is a pass. Even the over-under take control, stand up or KO. Vieira could control or sub. Stay away. Do you think Vieira's a good grappler, but do you think Vieira could submit Tate? I don't know.
I mean, she's been submitted by Ronda Rousey twice, but I mean, everybody got submitted by Ronda Rousey.
Like who has Vieira submitted in the UFC? Oh, she submitted Sarah McMahon, who everybody submits her, right?
Yeah, she got her with the arm triangle there, and that's how Sarah Sarah doesn't have the body type. She's a wrestler. She's got an 8-minute gas tank, so yeah, and she never really solved that. And really, that was a situation where Vieira has a 10-minute gas tank, and McCann had an 8-1, and that's where she got the finish, like right after the 8-minute mark. Book it. That's how it goes for Sarah McMahon fights.
Oh yeah. So let's take a look at some of these props. So we see that the over 4.5 rounds is minus 155, and the under 4.5 rounds is plus 125. The fight goes to decision is minus 175. The fight doesn't go to decision is plus 145. Let's start there. For me, I'm really looking at playing an over here, but I'm looking at potentially playing the alternate 3.5 rounds, seeing what that is. And then also with that, potentially maybe sprinkling the 4 and 5 for Misha Tate.
Yeah, I like the 4 and the 5 for Tate. I feel kind of the same way because this fight, where that over and under 4.5 is right now, I'd be more tempted on the under, to be honest with you, because just we don't know what Ketlin Vieira is going to look like in the 4th round. I mean, if she looks anything like she looks in the 3rd round, that's ugly, So yeah, I would probably play the under here just because there's some missing information there on the Ketlen Vieira side in terms of how she's going to handle the championship rounds. And the information that we already have, Brady, is that she doesn't even look good in the third round.
Yeah.
And Tate's battle tested. She's been in there with the best. So she's not going to go away easy. I don't think she's just in this for a check and is just going to walk away here and let Vieira shave her ass. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I kind of want the over 3.5 instead of the 4.5. I'm with you. I would not touch that. So let's take a look at some other props here. Vieira KO is plus 700. Tate KO plus 750. Vieira sub plus 450. Tate sub plus 850. Vieira inside the distance plus 250. Tate inside the distance plus 425. Vieira by decision plus 240. Tate by decision plus 140. None of these really sticking out to me. How about for you?
Dude, Tate inside the distance is plus 425.
Yeah, and it actually opened up plus 475.
Yeah, so there's some money coming in on that. I kind of like that, I think that she's probably the one that gets the finish here, if there is a finish, simply because I think Vieira can win minutes, and if she does bring the kind of conditioning that would be necessary to push a wrestling heavy game plan for 5 rounds, I see Vieira winning by decision, not by submission or knockout. But if that missing information that we don't have yet on how Vieira is going to look in rounds 4 and 5 turns out like how we should expect it to look, turn out, which is that she's not going to look good in 4 and 5 and maybe find a way to find the door, then Tate inside the distance at plus 425 is intriguing for me.
Yep, not horrible. How about some of these round props here? So this is kind of where I'm looking at. We have Tate winning in round 3 plus 2,000. Tate winning in round 4 plus 2,800. And then Tate winning in round 5, shout out to Moyes, plus 3,500. I don't mind sprinkling all those.
Yeah, I think I might do Tate in round 4 as well for a quarter unit and have a half unit on those high upside plays. And then maybe sprinkle just a tiny bit of that Tate inside the distance as well. But in Caitlin by decision isn't that juiced, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's plus 265 around there.
Yeah, I'm showing plus 240 right now on my bet online here for Ketlen Vieira by points. So yeah, what could be an interesting line is the decision only line. I could see maybe Vieira winning enough rounds if this does go to decision to win a decision. If it's plus money for decision only, that could be interesting as well. But yeah, those 4th and 5th round props are very, very intriguing in my opinion, especially on the Tate side, because we've seen that Vieira conditioning fail in the past.
Yep,
against smaller women.
So the no decision, would it be like the scorecards, no action, right?
Yeah, no, it's finish, no action. I think if the fight finishes inside the distance, the bet is null and void. If it goes to the scorecards, I think that Vieira is a good minute winner on the ground, and if she can win enough minutes on the ground to win a decision, I think that's the most likely scenario. Is that if this fight does go to decision, it'll be Vieira winning it. And if it finishes inside the distance, I think it'll be Tate winning it.
Yep, I agree with that. But yeah, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. But yeah, what's sticking out to me the most is going to be those round props for Tate. I mean, they're insane.
They're insane.
They're crazy. I've never seen anything like it.
I love it. And, not a lot of fights finish in the 4th and 5th round. That's why those props are always juiced as high as they are. And especially in women's fights, there's a lower percentage of finishes. So you could see why they're so juicy. But, man, 28-1 and 35-1 for Tate's in round 4 and 5 when Vieira has shown poor conditioning. I'm going to be on it for a quarter unit apiece, man. Here comes the second one.
Yeah, I'll be right there with you. That's great. Especially considering she slowed down in the 3-round fight. So imagine a 5-round fight. And if I don't see Vieira finishing Tate early, I could see a late Tate finish. She finished Renault in that 3rd round right in her last fight. She finished Holly Holm in the 5th round. She finished somebody back in the 4th round back in 2011. So she has gotten late finishes. So yeah, I don't hate that call there. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Talking talking about the Terrence McKinney fight. I think me and Weezy both have some violence bets in that.
Yeah, I've got a under 2.5 there. I think you got a better line than I did. But yeah, you got it at minus 135. I got it minus 150. Terrence McKinney been past the 1.5 round mark once in his career, right, Brady?
Yeah.
Never been a decision in any of his fights, right?
Yep, never been over that 2.5 round mark. He went to the 3rd round once and the 2nd round twice.
Yep. Gotta love that bet. That one's sitting out there, man. You would think that it'd be minus 200, minus 225 for fight doesn't go to decision. You could still get it better than minus 200 at like minus 170 or minus 180, I believe. So, yeah, that's a good bet, too.
Oh, yeah. Mark saying this is the best main event I've ever seen. Wow.
Yeah, well, some people were born yesterday.
That is true. Tate inside the distance plus 425 is lit. Yeah, don't hate that. Dev saying Tate via a sub 3rd round.
Dev, please no. How about 4th round?
Yeah, how about 4th round? Come on.
Or 5th.
Dad's talking about some T-Rex. I cannot wait for that fight. Roy saying some good looks. We'll be keeping my eye on those props when these lines come out for me. Yeah, those props are very, very juicy. So I guess we'll end it pretty soon here, Weezy. So I guess final thoughts on this fight, final prediction, and then obviously what bet are you looking at for this fight?
So, I've already bet the round 4 and 5 props for Tate at 28 to 1 and 35 to 1, respectively. I do like Miesha Tate inside the distance here. But, I don't think I'm going to go much further into that because, I think if you're on that Vieira side, you can wait here. I think you're going to be able to wait until the weigh-ins and make sure that she makes weight, so at least then that she planned her weight cut properly and hopefully trained really hard and did enough cardio in order to make weight. Because if she doesn't make weight, it could mean she's injured. It could mean that the cardio work wasn't there in order for her to fight a full 5 rounds. So I think what I'm going to do is now that I'm on Tate in the 4th and the 5th here, I think I'm just going to sit back and wait for the weigh-in. And then if I see Ketlin not looking good, I'll probably hammer that plus 425 prop for another half unit. And just in case Tate does get it done further inside the distance, and then maybe even put a money line bet on Miesha.
There we go. I like it. Yeah. For me, I'm going to be on that 5th round and 4th round as well. Potentially the 3rd as well. What was the 3rd like around? I think it was like plus 1,800, right? Vieira
plus 2,000 actually for Tate in round 3.
Yeah, that's pretty intriguing as well.
Yeah, it is.
All these are. But yeah, I might be on that 3rd as well. But yeah, it's a tough fight. If this was 3 rounds for me, it would be Vieira. No questions asked. But the 5 round aspect of things really makes things hard. I'm gonna this stuff. I'm gonna pick Tate here. I'm gonna pick Tate. I don't love it. I think that she's probably going to lose the first round and a half, 2 rounds, maybe even 3 rounds. I just think as the fight goes on, she's going to slow down. I don't like what I saw from Vieira against Yana. If that was a 5 round fight, she would have lost. I don't like what I saw against her and Eubanks. If that was 5 rounds, she would have lost. And this is a 5 round fight. This is going to be her first 5 round fight as well. And yeah, I'm gonna take Tate to get a late finish. And as far as like a money line bet, I'm not going to touch Tate here, but I do like those round sprinkles. I don't mind Tate inside the distance at that ridiculous plus 425. But yeah, I'm going to take Tate here for the win. Again, if it was 3 rounds, Vieira. If it's 5 rounds, Tate. I think those extra 2 rounds do make a big difference, at least for me. So give me Tate for the win, but I don't feel like overly confident about it. But yeah, those round sprinkles are just those are insane. I'll definitely be taking some shots at that.
Yeah, dude, and like I want to say that if Vieira, if this was a 3 round fight, I'd be betting Vieira probably up to minus 175, and I'd feel really good about her winning this fight. But five rounds just makes her unbettable for me, unless she just looks phenomenal on the scale and really looks like she's ready to go that full 5. Then that might turn it around for me. But like I say, it's hard to bet on things that you've never seen before. And we just haven't seen 5 round cardio out of Ketlin Vieira. And she pushes the kind of game plan that just, it means it's harder to maintain your gas tank when you push that kind of pace. So, yeah, I got to believe it's going to be Tate in the late rounds here.
Yep, I agree. I definitely agree. Raw saying Brady and Weezy always speak the truth. Appreciate that raw torque. Dash saying thanks, Brady and Weezy and chat. Hit the like on the exit. I agree. If y'all can please smash that like button. Really do appreciate it. And really do appreciate all the people that are hanging out here for a main event that's like this, trying to find some spots. Cam, can Weezy drop his Twitter and YouTube? His Twitter is MMA Weezy, and his YouTube is just Uncle Weezy, right, Weezy?
Uncle Weezy, that's right. UNCLEWEEZY.
There we go. Cage saying, are you going to play either in a DFS lineup? They just released the cost on DraftKings. So Weezy, listen to this. Tate is 8,300 and Vieira is 7,900.
Yeah, I'd be interested really in both. I mean, like I say, I want to see the weigh-in, and that's the great thing about DraftKings. You don't have to make your bet right now. You got up until, the fights start to change your lineup. So, yeah, I would definitely be on those guys. For me, Tate more at 8,300 seems interesting, but I'm telling you, Vieira is going to score points early in this fight, getting takedowns and control time here. But she just doesn't throw enough volume when she's on the ground, scoring points down there to really be over it. But 5-round fights, you ignore them in your lineups at your own peril.
Yep. We have a dono in the chat. Daz with the dono. Appreciate you, Daz. Weezy, what fight are you going balls deep on, and when are you going to be doing that?
Okay, so Balls Deep breakdowns are going to come on Wednesday on my channel. I'm doing the full card breakdown Tuesday night, just a tip, 10 o'clock Central Time. And then I'm going to probably do Brady against Chiesa and then one other. But the one I'm looking at the most is Lutz against Sabatini. I think it's a very interesting fight with a couple of really highly touted prospects. I think that'd be a great one to do. But I also think that there's a couple fights that are pick'ems right now, which would be very interesting to do, which would be McKinney Ziam. They're very, very exciting fighters. And potentially, I'm not doing Kang Yaya, man. No chance. Durden Kaleng could also be very interesting. And I think Shayilan Soriano has got some very interesting angles in that one as well. So, yeah, there's some really good choices there. Hit me up on Twitter if you have any requests.
Yep, I think this card is pretty dang solid, but we'll head out of here. Appreciate everybody that did hang out. Weezy, let them know where they can find you and what you have going on throughout the week.
You got it, man. At MMA Weezy on Twitter, and you can find me Uncle Weezy on my YouTube channel. I do balls deep breakdowns of fights there. I will be going live tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Central Time, for a full card breakdown for this UFC Vegas 43 card. Break down all 12 fights from a statistical perspective. Tomorrow as well, I'll be on Pub Sports Radio with you, Brady, 6 p.m. Central Time for the DraftKings show with Luke and AJ. And yeah, you can find me also on Brady's channel for every week for the main event breakdowns, and then also every week for Best Bet, which is 1 hour before the fights start on Saturday.
Sounds good. All right, guys, if you can please smash the like button on your way out, subscribe to the channel. I'll be posting my full card breakdown and prediction video probably sometime tomorrow morning. And yeah, I'll be back on Friday going live 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, and then live on Saturday 1 hour prior to the prelims for Best Bet. And yeah, catch me on Pub Sports Radio as well tomorrow with Weezy and the guys doing some DraftKings. I'm over there as well doing some NFL. So appreciate you guys hanging out. Good luck for UFC Vegas 43, and let's make some money.